there, this is Desiree from Epic Dance Complex. This video is going to be a makeup tutorial for stage makeup. So if you're looking for some tips on how to prepare your stage makeup, stay tuned. Just a few disclaimers on this video. I am not a professional makeup artist. These are just tips that I've taken from my years of doing dance makeup for stage performance. So if there's any professional makeup artists watching, please be kind. I am not a professional. Secondly, the palette that we use for our makeup, especially our eye makeup, is a purple-based palette. This is just our preference of colors for using for our studio for stage makeup. Other studios may have specific colors that they use, and that's totally fine. You can definitely use some of the same techniques. So make sure you're using the colors that your teachers have approved and enjoy this makeup tutorial. So the first thing you're going to want to do is prepare your face. Depending on the age of the child, you may or may not need to use foundation. The very young kids, they're going to have pretty flawless skin. They're not going to need a foundation. If they're a little bit older, especially if they're in that sort of 8, 9 up, they probably do want a little bit of a foundation base just to kind of keep everything smooth. Imagine it being like a primer on a wall. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do foundation. Also, if you have any preteens or teenagers who maybe have some blemishes, discoloration, maybe a little bit of dark circles, you might want to use some concealer. You can use a primer if you want. That would just depend on your own personal preference. For the little ones, you can also might want to just put like a little bit of lotion on just to smooth their skin out before you get started. So I'm going to go ahead and start. So I'm going to do some concealer under my eyes, just to get rid of some of those dark circles. And then I'm going to grab my foundation and I'm going to put that on. You can use whatever, I use a brush, a sponge, whatever you want to use. When you're picking the color for stage, you want it to be skin color matched or a half a shade or so darker if you want. If your child is very, very fair skin, you might want to go with that little tiny bit darker, just to make them not look washed out on stage. Stage lights are very, very harsh, and especially for those little guys, you want to really make sure that they're not getting washed out. Blend that in really nice. Remember, you can always add more. So as you're going, if you think that you need more coverage or you need something darker, always add a little bit more. It's easier to add than it is to take away. And make sure that you blend it all the way up into the hairline, especially if you're using a little bit darker shade, and down, blend it out so that it's not a harsh line underneath. So that's a pretty good starting place. Everything's kind of evened up. The next thing you want to do, and this is where you would start for those little guys who aren't going to be wearing foundation, is putting on a little bit of powder. So you can use a pressed powder. This is just a translucent pressed powder. You could also use one that's got a bit of a color, or you can use a loose powder. Just be careful with the loose powder because it will get all over the place. I usually on a day-to-day basis use a translucent for setting, and then I have one with a bit of a color just so that I don't get too washed out from the translucent. So you're just gonna kind of brush that over. Make sure that you're not shiny. Really, really brush it onto your eyelids as well because you're going to be putting a lot of eye makeup on. And you want it to stay in place. Again, brushing all that out. And then I would also take the colored one and just so I don't look too pale. You can also just use one with a skin color powder so that you don't have to do two. So first thing we're going to start with is eye color. So the palette that I use for my dancers is this one. This is the Revlon Color Stay, and it's in the color palette Seductive. It's purple shades. I prefer the purple looks for an eyeshadow color. Some people use like brown tones or other variables. I just like the way purple looks. I find brown can sometimes look muddy on some people's skin, and purple's nice and bright. So this is a 4-color palette. and we're only really going to use 3 of the colors. So these little sponge applicators that come with the palettes, I don't ever use them. As you can see, this one's pretty clean. I just find they're harder to control the colors, so I actually have some like nice brushes. If you want to use that, I would just suggest practicing with it so that you get a really good idea of how to apply. So there's a variations of colors in here. We're going to use them. We're going to do one color on the lid all the way up to the crease. We're going to do a dark color in the crease, and then we're going to use a lighter color to do some highlighting. So I'm just going to do the first color. We're actually going to take this sort of second darkest color here, and I'm going to brush that onto my eyelids. I like the purple because it's nice and bright. It's a very awake color, and it generally matches any color costume you might have. And as you can tell, purple is my favorite color, so it works out well for me. So we're going to make it nice, even coat all across the eyelid. And make sure you take it right up to the crease because you don't want to have any sort of gaps in your makeup. Again, you can always add more, so we're going to start off with it not too dark. And later on, I will show you a couple modifications for a little bit darker makeup based on wearing false eyelashes. This is going to be a look without false eyelashes to start. So we've used this color. Now we're going to go to the darkest color. And for this, I'm going to use a slightly denser brush so I can get right into the crease. Again, start with a very little amount and go right into the crease. Remember, you can always add more. I like to start with the eye makeup because if you happen to drop any on your under eye or your cheek, you haven't already put on your blush, and you can just grab your foundation and clean that up, put a little bit of powder, and you're good to go. Keep building on that crease makeup, making sure you don't go too far in. I like to leave about a quarter of your eyelid without any crease makeup, just to keep it nice and open. And I don't close it off the sides. If you see, the crease color doesn't come all the way down and meet my eye, corner of my eye. So just keep building until you have it dark enough. Remember, you can adjust the amount that you're putting on based on your child's age. For the very little ones, it has to be very light. We're just wanting to accentuate features so that they aren't washed out by the stage light. And if you want to blend a little bit, you can use a little bit of blending. And if you feel like you have a little bit too much of the dark, or if it's coming too far down on your eyelid, you can always go back in with that lighter color and just soften it. Also, having that lighter color really opens up the eye. So that looks fairly good. I'm gonna just take this and just get rid of any stuff under my eyes. So the next part we're gonna do is we're gonna take that brush again. You might wanna take off a little bit of the color so there's none of that purple in there. And we're gonna go in with the lightest color from this palette. You're just gonna take a little bit on your brush and you're gonna put it on the inside corner of your eye, just a tiny little bit. And you're also gonna put a little bit under your brow bone like that. And you can also just sort of blend that out so that there's not a super stark line. The reason that we do that is having it in the inside corner of your eye, right there, makes your eye look bigger because it extends the sort of light color or the white and it reflects the light. And same with under your brow bone. It will accentuate any eyebrow movement. So when you're performing, you want your eyes to be very expressive, and that will be accentuated with that. So we're gonna sort of leave the eyes there for a minute. So you finished your eye makeup. I would take a fluffy brush and just brush anything off and make sure that there's not any color that has fallen onto your under eye or onto your cheek. And we're gonna move on to cheeks. So this is where some people run into issue with stage makeup. Especially with those little ones, you wanna have a nice bright cheek so that their smiles are accentuated and they look very full of life and color on stage. But sometimes putting a lot of pink blush can kind of get a clowny look. So what I've learned through the years is that in order to get like a really nice defined face with a very defined cheek, instead of doing a heavy blush, I actually start with a bronzer. So this just has to be a little bit darker than your skin tone or your child's skin tone. So I actually do a bronzer first, and then I just put the pink blush. I use a bright pink blush on the apple of my cheek and just over top of the bronzer. It gives it a little bit more natural look, and then when you're on stage, they still look they have that nice flushed, joyful look, but they don't look super clowny and it doesn't look aggressive. So I always just take a nice bronzer, take a little bit, and I still start at my cheek and I brush it out. Brush it out to your hairline. Make sure you're getting a nice definition on your cheek. And brush it out. If your child is very pale and you're worried that they are going to get washed out, you can add a little bit sort of onto there, a little bit on their nose. Not really required, but you really want to get those cheeks defined. Make sure you're even on both sides. So now when you look at me, I do have some color, my cheeks are defined. Now when I go in with the pink blush, I don't have to put as much on to actually have my cheeks be defined and my smile be really beautiful on stage. I just need a tiny bit and just put it right on the apple of the cheeks. You actually don't have to put it super far in if you kind of put it on the outside, the kind of chubby part of your cheeks, and again, brush it out over top. Get it really blended out. As you can see, I don't have to use very much of the pink blush to define my cheeks. It's just a little bit of that pink color. I like to use a really pretty pink color, nice and bright and clean, and brush that out. Remembering, again, you can always build. If you feel like you got too much, you can use your fluffy brush and just blend it out. And even though we are doing sort of the angled up, you don't want it to be a super stark line. You can see it's fairly naturally blended. If I want to add a little bit more, I can. But it's not an aggressive streak of blush and foundation and bronzer. It's not an aggressive streak of foundation and bronzer. It's just a nice diagonal up to show off your smile. And then blend it out. All right, so we've done our eyeshadow and our eye makeup. Next up, we want to do some brow definition. Again, really important, you don't want to have your brows be so light that you lose the expression on stage. So there's obviously tons of different brow things you can use. These are just some various pencils. This is like a thin one. This one's a little bit thicker. You can use a powder for your eyebrows, but it is difficult to control powders, so pencils are usually a little bit easier. There's also, these are the ones I use on a daily basis. These are more like a gel and sort of a brush like a mascara. So I kind of use a combination of things. You really want to make sure that you have a strong brow, so when you're looking at your eyebrow, if you take your pencil or whatever and you put it on the inside of your nose or the outside of your nose, you want it to be, that's the inside of your eyebrow. So if your eyebrows don't come that far in, especially on stage if they're really fair, I have really very little hairs, I want to fill that in so that I have a well-defined brow. And then you want it to kind of be on the outside of your eye. So you want a full looking brow. It doesn't have to be super dark, it just has to be defined. So I'm going to sort of do a combination. I use the gel to sort of get everything controlled and going in the right direction. Doesn't have to be super dark. Make sure that it's coordinated with your child's hair color. So if you have blonde hair, you don't want to have black eyebrows. You want it to be matching. So again, this is actually a blonde color eyebrow. For stage, I would probably go with the darker brown one because I want more definition because it's going to be farther away. And remember, when you're doing your child's makeup or your own makeup, take a look at it from a distance, because what looks a certain way up close may look very different from far away. I kind of have two mirrors in front of me, and doing certain parts of my makeup, I will get really close to the mirror, and then I have to back up to make sure that everything is balanced. So we're doing a little bit of the gel. And as you can see, as I'm doing this, it is filling in quite a bit, but especially those middle parts have a lot of empty, sparse spaces. So I'm gonna take this one, it's a nice little gel tip, and just start drawing in a few little hairs here and there. Fill in the ends so that my ends of my eyebrows are actually visible. Just do a little bit at a time. Remember, you can always add more. That's kind of a rule of thumb for your makeup. I mean, probably for every day, but especially for stage, you can always add more. You don't want to get to a point where you've put too much on and then you have to try and wash your face and start again, because that's always a little bit difficult. Just keep adding, making sure that they're even. And again, I'm looking at the faraway mirror to see that they're even, to see that they have a nice shape. And then when I use this one, I also then go over it with this gel again, just to sort of set it. Not bad. All right, so eyebrows are done. We kind of have our eyes almost to the end. Next up, we would want to do eyeliner and mascara. So we would use a black eyeliner. You can use a liquid, a pencil. I'm gonna grab the pencil that I have. You wanna make sure you're getting it right up close to the lash line. Super important, you don't want a big chunky line, because you want it to be defined, but you don't want it to be closing off the eye. The bigger and chunkier your line is, the more closed off your eye is going to look. So I'm gonna grab this and get nice and close. Trying to do sort of little dashes along your lash line. It's always hard to make it even, and making sure that you don't go too far to the inside corner of your eye. You want to sort of leave that little bit of space of white or light color. So making sure that you're just doing little dashes. And getting a nice lash line with black there, so you can see the difference between the two eyes. So I'm just going to do this eye quickly, and then we'll do mascara and then lips to finish this. All right, so I've got the top of both eyes lined. A couple things I don't personally do with eyeliner. I don't line the bottom of my eyes, so I don't line under the bottom lash line. I just feel like it can be too much black, and it ends up closing off the eye because you have black on top and bottom. I like to have a nice open eye. The other thing I don't do that some people do is I don't do a little wing or a little tick on the outside. I personally don't like the way that looks. Some people like it. I just think it's nicer to have a really clean makeup look than to have a lot of extra things happening. So we've got that done. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a mascara. So this is gonna be a mascara look, and then in a couple minutes I'll show you how we do an application of eyelashes and talk through that a little bit. There'll be a couple adjustments I make with that. So if your child can handle it, I recommend curling their eyelashes with an eyelash curler. If they can't, just get a really good curling and volumizing mascara, because you really want their eyelashes to be lifted so that they're actually showing off their eyes. So I'm gonna take the eyelash curler. It looks more painful than it is. And as I do my eyelashes, I try and do like a little clamp and release. So I'm just pushing down a little bit and then letting go, and I'm doing that a couple of times. There's no point really in holding it for a long time. It's just gonna pull your eyelashes out and really hurt your eyes. So I'm just doing a couple clamp and releases. Remember, you can always go back in and do more. And then I just check to see, I kind of lift my eyelid up to see where it's going, if it's going up, and then do the other one. So just sort of clamp and release. You want to get your eyelash curler as close to your lash line as possible, so you're getting the most lift and the most length. And that one's pretty good too. Then I'm going to take my mascara and I'm going to start as close to the lash line as possible and wiggle it up because I want to get that nice lift. So I'm going to go in and wiggle it up. Really, really get some nice long eyelashes. Sometimes this is easier for the little ones to do a mascara, and sometimes I have had little ones where the moms have found it easier to just put on false eyelashes. It just depends on your level of comfort and what your child needs. Sometimes it can be hard to do certain parts of the stage makeup. So really lifting and getting those nice thick eyelashes. Another thing that you can do to really thicken up the eyelashes is you can take the end of your mascara wand and you just sort of rub it on the ends and rub it through like that. So you just sort of like add a little extra mascara to the ends of the eyelashes. It's going to get you that length, and it's also going to kind of separate those lashes out and get really, really in there. Another thing that I like to do is I do put a tiny bit of mascara on my lower lashes just so that they look like they're there. Again, this is something you might want to look at far away to make sure that you're not getting too much, but you do want to have lower lashes. Not having them is not helpful. So that looks pretty good. Nice eyelashes. And then the last thing we want to do is a lip. So I have a couple of different lip colors that I use, kind of depending on costume color, but also on the age of the kids. So these are the two that I've used the most. They're both Rimmel colors. The pink one, I don't know if they have the names on here. The pink one is called I'll Call You. It's a nice pretty pink. And the red one is Play with Fire. So it's a nice red. I like these Rimmel lip colors because they have a color and they also have a seal and shine step, so they actually stay on really nicely. Especially if you have little kids, you don't want them like their lips coming off and getting all over the place. So I'm going to do the pink one because we're kind of doing a more subtle look, and then when I do the false eyelashes, I'll use the red ones so you can see the difference. So these ones you need to put the lip color on, and then you need to let it set for a couple minutes. So it almost dries on your lips, and then you put the shine coat on. So we're going to do this pink one. Again, like I've said before, you really want to start with a little bit of product, and you can always add more. There we go. Make sure you have a nice lip shape, you're getting enough color, you don't want it to be splotchy looking, and you want it to be nicely applied to the shape of your lip. So now with this one, you're going to give it a minute or so to let it sort of set. It's going to start to feel like it's drying. It's drying a little bit. Kind of feels funny. It feels like your lips are drying out just as you're sitting there. They sort of feel a little bit dry and kind of sticky. It's almost the point. And then there's this nice lock and shine coat. So this is actually going to make your lips feel nice and moisturized. So now my lips feel like they're going to stick together. I'm going to put the top coat on. rub my lips together. And there, that's our basic makeup look, kind of for all ages, but especially works for those little ones. We have a nice pink lipstick. It's not too much. It's just a really nice, clean, defined look. So now we're gonna do a couple of changes to sort of bring this up to a little bit more mature look. We're gonna add a false eyelash. We're going to do a small adjustment to the eye makeup to accompany that eyelash, and then we're gonna change out the lip color. So first things first, there are a couple of different kind of eyelashes you can get. There are the drugstore brand. These are just from like Shoppers. There's different lengths. These ones are extremely long. I don't even know. These are 808s from Quo. These are really long and are probably not ideal for wearing for a dance or for competition. These ones I actually got as a sample. They are the brand Hypnotize lashes. They are actually not super duper long. These are both sets of these are glue-on eyelashes. Now there's another new type of thing. I've never used these for competition myself. I know some people really like them and some people are a little bit on the fence about them. I definitely will be looking at trying them more, but they are magnetic liner and lash. So what they are is there's a black gel liner that comes with this. And instead of doing like your normal black eyeliner like we did earlier, you use the liner that's included, and the lashes have magnets in them, and there's magnetics in the liner. So I'm gonna do a glue lash because that's a little bit more of a complicated process. And then I will do this as a demo just on my hand so you can see kind of how these attach. But I'm gonna show you some of my tips for a glue lash liner, or a lash. So my first tip is that the glue that comes, or the glue that you buy, this is the glue that I have, is extremely runny, and it has a very large tip. So if you look at that, you can see that it's got quite a large tip. If you try to take this and put the glue directly onto your lash line, you're gonna have a huge mess. The lashes have a very, very thin lash line. Putting that glue on, a lot of times what happens is it drips and you get it all down your lashes, and then your lashes are basically ruined. The lashes can last you for quite a while. So they should last you probably an entire dance season, depending on how many times you're using them. You may be able to get more use out of them. I would usually get a new pair of lashes every year, just because the glue sitting on them, if you clean them off really well and you take good care of them, they can last the whole season. So what my big tip is I take something all dancers have, a bobby pin, and I pry that bobby pin open like this, and I use the end of the bobby pin. If you want to pop off the little soft bit on the bobby pin, you can, you don't have to. I use that to put my glue on. So instead of putting the glue directly on the lash, I usually use the back of my hand, and I just put a glob of glue on the back of my hand, dip the bobby pin inside of the glue, wipe it across the lash, then apply it. The other trick is it takes a while for the glue to dry, and a lot of people get really antsy and they put the glue on the lash and put the lash on their eye, and then they have to sit there holding it in place with their eye closed. If you hold your lash with the glue on it for a couple seconds and then put it on when it's starting to dry, it will set easier and you won't have to worry about like getting glue everywhere because it will have started to dry, and you'll be able to just hold it for a couple seconds and open your eye and be done. I'm gonna try my best to do this on camera. This is really hard to do with like extra things going on. I'm gonna show you one eye and then I'll do the other one without the camera on. So usually when you get lashes, they're like this, so they have different lengths. I'll actually show you the ones that are really, really long so you can get a really good idea. Depending on your child's age and the size of their eye, you can trim the lashes down. I would just suggest if you're buying the lashes, you not trim them like the length. You can just trim how wide they are for your eyes. So these are the super, super long ones that I was saying are probably not ideal for dance. So you can trim them, but I would just say I wouldn't trim the length of the lash in terms of like how long it goes up. I would just buy a lash that's appropriate for your child. Trying to trim that and make it even, you might as well just buy something that's already pre-made that way. So I'm gonna use these ones that I got, these hypnotic ones. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my glue and put a dollop on the back of my hand. It doesn't have to be very much. Mine's just like a little drip on the back of my hand. I'm going to take my eyelash and hold it. I'm right-handed, so I'm holding this in my left hand. And then I'm going to take my bobby pin and get a couple of pieces of glue there. I'm just going to slowly start adding it onto my eyelash. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just going to start drawing a line with my glue. You can always add more glue as you go. You probably want more glue on the ends because they're most likely to lift. And just keep putting it on. Make sure you get it all the way onto the ends. You want it to really stick, right? Make it nice and even. If you see any spots that don't look like they have enough glue, add a little bit more. And once you have that glue on, you're gonna hold on to your eyelash and you're gonna wait and you're gonna wait and you're gonna think you're waiting way too long. You're just gonna wait. You can fan it, let it just have its moment. Because it does take a minute or two for the glue to dry when it's being applied, you have time. You can put that glue on, give it a second, and then you want to try and apply it. I find if I try and sort of get one corner in and then press it down, it's a little bit easier. Although it is tricky to align it, you want to make sure that it's kind of lined up properly. You don't want a piece hanging off the end. You don't want it too close to the middle because then it looks really awkward. If you make a mistake, you can always pull it off and restart. It's harder because your makeup starts to get a little gummy with the glue. So we're going to hold it, hold it, hold it. Probably getting pretty close there, and I'm going to try and put this on. You can do it with your eye open or closed. Sometimes it's a little bit easier with your eye open because you can line it up a little bit better. And then if you want to close it and push it into the corners. Once you've lined it up, if you line it up with your eye open, you might want to close it just so that it lets the glue set. Then you don't have to worry about blinking it off. If you have too much eye movement while the glue is still setting, it might pop your eyelash off. So you can kind of feel it drying. Another thing, in my awkward state with one eye closed, I would still recommend curling your natural eyelash even if you're wearing a false eyelash. You can also put mascara on with your false eyelashes. I would just say curl your eyelashes, and I used to always curl my eyelashes then put just my false eyelashes on. Just because then you don't have sort of like stray eyelashes pointing straight forward and then you have your false eyelash. It just kind of blends in. I think that's pretty close. It's actually not bad. As you can see, it's just a little bit more depth to the eyelash and a little bit darker. So I'm gonna just put the other eyelash on and then I'm just gonna show you a couple of little modifications to my eye makeup. There we have both eyelashes on. So now I'm going to do a small modification to the eye makeup I've already done because of the false eyelashes. So because I have false eyelashes on, the eyelashes go a lot higher than what I normally would have with my own eyelashes. So as you can see, sort of the crease, the dark color has disappeared a little bit. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the dark crease color up a little bit higher so that it is a little bit more visible. With the eyelashes, you're getting a more dramatic look, so you just need a little bit more makeup to balance it. So I'm just going to kind of go up a little bit higher, just so it's a little bit more visible so it doesn't look almost too natural. Remembering every time you add something to your makeup, you also are going to have to balance it. So like when I add the darker lip, I might need to adjust my cheek color. You just have to look at it again, up close and far away, and sort of assess. The other thing I didn't mention with using the bobby pin that I used for putting on the eyelashes is that the beauty of having a bobby pin, I always had one of these in my little box with my eyelashes, is that at a long day of competition, if your eyelash starts lifting in the corner, which is usually what happens, you just take that bobby pin, put a little glue, and you can just kind of get that corner and put it back down. So we're going to just do the other one, take it up a little bit higher. And if you feel like that's getting to be too dark as well, like if you put that on and you're like, that's a little too much dark color, you can go back in with that lighter color and just sort of blend on the lid. So as you can see, like I took that dark up a little bit higher to match the eyelashes. And again, I'm probably gonna take this, that second color there, and just sort of tap it in there just to add a little bit of lightness and brightness. So yeah, see, a little bit darker just balances the eyelashes out a little bit. So then the other thing that I'm gonna do is, now that I've changed out my eyelashes, this is a little bit more mature look, is I'm gonna change up my lip color. So I'm just gonna grab a wet wipe. I'm gonna just wipe off a little bit of this pink, and I'm gonna change it out for the red lipstick. Again, if you're using a wet wipe, you have to be really careful you don't wipe off all your makeup around it, because then you'll have a really weird look where you don't have any foundation or powder around your lips. There we go. So again, this is that Rimmel color. This is the red one, which was called Play with Fire. Same thing, you're gonna put the red color on, you're gonna let it dry a little bit, then you're gonna put the sealer on. These lipsticks are a godsend, because I remember when I was little, there wasn't any of these sealing lip colors. And I'll tell you what we had to do. Get the upper lip. Really fill it in. You want to make sure that you pick a color that you can get nice and dark and saturated, but isn't going to look too dark on stage. I'll tell you, when I was trying to find the good lip colors for our students, when I went to find these ones, it took me a long time to find a red color I liked. Let them dry a little bit. I'll tell you why. I wanted a bright red. So this is a really nice bright red. When I went to test lipsticks, I got this at just Shoppers Drug Mart. When I went to test the lipsticks, all of the reds were more of a brown tone. So they were like kind of a darker brownish red. And I just didn't feel that that was going to be a really bright, good stage look. And I probably had about 20 samples on my hand, and I looked like a little bit like a crazy person because I had put so many colors on my hand and I just couldn't find the right one. And this was the only one that I felt was like a really nice bright red. And it was a bonus that it had this nice lock and shine on the other end. And it was nice that they had a really good pink color as well. The pink color is perfect for the little guys because it's not too much, it's just a nice natural pink color. It's not too bright, it's not too neon, and this red I thought was just perfect. I have found some other reds from other brands, like stage makeup companies, but I always try and find something that's super easy for the parents to find, and these were just from Shoppers. So once this is dried, we're gonna put that sealer on. And the sealer was just like the bonus on top of it. So there we go. So that's the end of that makeup look. So just a couple things. So as I was saying, I really like the sealer. Back in the day, we didn't have any of those when I was growing up. So we used to have to do, I don't know if anybody else remembers doing this, but we used to do this little powder trick where you would put your lipstick on, you'd put a Kleenex in your mouth and you'd open the Kleenex and you'd put like a loose powder and you'd powder it. And I guess some of the particles of the powder get through. I'm not sure exactly how it worked, and it helped us set our lipstick. These are just so much better. Honestly, they're the greatest thing. I used these two lipsticks, these two colors at competitions for the last couple of years. I've had these colors on hand for the kids, and the parents have really liked them because they don't come off super easily. So when we had competitions where the kids have waited for like a little while to dance, or the competitions maybe been running a little bit behind, they didn't have to worry about the lipstick coming off. It also doesn't come off on their costumes. We've had really good success with it staying on. So I highly recommend these Rimmel ones. They're great. So this is our kind of completed, more dramatic look. Again, if you want to go a darker eyeshadow, you want to go like, you could even say you're doing a specific themed number, you might want to do like a really dark, even black lipstick. Those are all modifications you keep. This is sort of our base makeup look. Now, I did talk about the magnetic lashes. So I just want to quickly go over it. These are like kind of a newer thing. And I just actually picked these up because I wanted to test them out. The biggest difference if you were using these versus the glue-on ones that I did is that, as you can see, there's like a little pot in here. This is the specific gel liner you need to use. So you would not do the eyeliner as I showed before. You would do this gel liner and then you would attach the eyelash. So I'm gonna unpackage this and I'll show you how it works. All right, so this comes with its own specific eyeliner. This has to be used. It comes with this little brush. So if you have your own eyeliner brush, I'd recommend, because like this tiny little brush is like super hard to hold on to. If you have like a regular brush, I'm assuming it would work. I haven't tried it. And it does have instructions on the inside of the box. So the instructions for this is that you need to do 2 coats of this. While this is still like damp, I guess, you attach the magnetic lash. So I'm just gonna do it on my hand because I don't really want to take off my eyelashes to do it. So you would do this in place of the regular eyeliner. So it's just a little tiny pot actually. And you just don't need very much. So I'm just gonna show you. So you do 2 coats. So you're gonna take it and you're gonna draw a line on your hand. Well, on your eye, but I'm gonna do it on my hand. So you're gonna draw a nice line, just like a regular eyeliner. And again, you would try and keep it as, I guess, as thin as possible. You need it to be thick enough for the eyelashes to adhere. But again, you don't want super chunky eyeliner because then it's making your eye look smaller. So there's the coat number 1. I'm gonna wait a second, gather this up, and then I'll show you how this works. Some people think these are awesome and some people think they're like a little bit weird. I still really have no opinion of them. I haven't actually tried them on my eyes. I don't know how they would feel, if they feel different, because if you look at them, while I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm going to show you this. If you look at the eyelash itself, you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but you can see there's sort of like little pieces on there. That's the magnets. So some people that might not feel comfortable, they might be able to feel it if they're really sensitive. If someone has like a metal sensitivity, I don't know how they would feel about these. I don't know if there's any allergy issues. If you're not sure how these will work for you, glue lashes work just as well. So the first coat of the eyeliner on my hand is pretty much dry. So I'm going to do the second coat, and as soon as I'm done the second coat, I'm going to attach the eyelash. So I'm going to just do a second coat right over top, maintaining that lash line, imagining that this is on my face instead of on my hand, and you're just going to brush it on. Brush it on. So I have a nice solid line there. And now I'm going to take my eyelash and I'm going to attach it. That's a little bit hard because my hand is not curved like an eye. So now I've attached it to my hand as if it's an eye. Now, it would probably be easier putting it on your eye because your eye is curved the way the lash is. My hand is not curved like an eye, but I mean, they look pretty cool. If you try and tug on it, it stays pretty well. It does give you instructions inside, and it does say like if you need to readjust, how to readjust them, remove them, put a little bit more stuff on. So like it does have really good instructions. They say long lasting, reusable. I'm not sure if they would last any longer than glue lashes. I'm not sure if the liner would build up on the lash. I haven't had a lot of experience with them. I do have some students who have tried them this year. They're not really sure if they like them. I'm eager to try them. I'm actually going to try them on myself eventually and see how I feel about them, just so I can give a really honest answer of whether or not I think they're worth it. They are a little bit more expensive than the regular lashes. Like a regular pair of lashes is between like $8 and $10. This pack was like $24, I think, but that is including the liner that comes with it. So if you kind of factor that in, if you have to buy an eyeliner plus you have to buy the lashes, it probably comes out pretty close total wise. So if it's something you're interested in trying, I got this at Superstore. I'm sure it's available at Shoppers and all the other drugstores. So then that's kind of another option if you're not sure about the glue. So these are just a few of our tips. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about our makeup or things that you think we might have missed, or you would like some questions answered about like how we would modify it for different characters, feel free to drop your questions in the comments. If you are a makeup artist and you think I did everything wrong, feel free to drop that in the comments. If you think I did some things right, if you have any of your own tips that you've found out through the years. Some of these have been modified through my years from, like I said, the lipstick is a different thing that has the sealer. Some of these have been modified just by the improvements in how makeup is formulated and how makeup is now presented to the public, things you can buy. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that you can use some of these tips for your upcoming performance. Feel free to leave us a comment, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and we hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day.